we're such a small, intimate group, I would like everyone to unmute themselves. I'm a very offbeat speaker. I do not like static lectures. I expect an interaction. I expect questions. I expect this to go back and forth because this is for you guys. So you all need to be in it. Okay. Today we're essentially talking about where can you go from here. Irfana, just in a nutshell, if you could tell me your MA program, what does everybody graduate in?
Like, is it their undergraduate? It's different actually, ma'am. Some have psychology. Okay. Yeah, maybe they themselves can talk about it. Yeah. So okay. Krishna, can you say what was your undergraduate?
Yeah, no, so what I want to know, okay, so how about we do a round? Tell me your undergraduate, and I also want to know, y'all are in MA currently, am I right?
Yes.
Right. So what is it that you are going to graduate in? Okay. And essentially, do you have a rough idea of what you want to do in psychology? Let's just start from there. Anybody can start. I would love to hear from everybody so that we can have a good, productive conversation today.
I had graduated from BSc Bioscience Honors.
Okay.
I took psychology more of, my vision is more into the education field and student side. To go with schools and change the way students experience the teaching.
Okay. So essentially you want to go into school psychology or like education psychology.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Anybody, whoever, next.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Naveen.
Hi.
Hi, ma'am. I graduated from a commerce BCom. I done my in BCom, and I am hoping I would be a great counselor if I may.
Okay. You're looking to be a counseling psychologist. Okay, great.
I'll go next. Hello, ma'am. My name is Nishita. And I graduated from BSc Psychology from Pune. And like right now I'm exploring still. I'm interested in the AI psychology part of it. But the prospect, like the future, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Exploring.
Okay. All right.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Kenan.
Hi. Tell me.
I finished my BCom. My undergrad was in commerce. So the reason I took psychology was like I was very interested in it since a very long time. And if you ask me like what I'm expecting, I haven't decided upon the career path as such. Like as Nishita said, I'm still exploring what all are the plans. Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good. Okay.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
My name is Irfan. I have done my undergraduate in sociology.
Okay.
I have a very interest in this subject, psychology, because I want to help other people. So to eradicate this taboo from our society or this mental health problem, and to work with different sector people. So how to overcome their failures? They are very stuck in their position, like what to do in their life. They have very confused mind. So I make them feel they can do anything in life if they have the clarity and the vision to do anything.
Okay. All right. Next.
Hi, this is Supriya here. I've graduated in Hindi.
Okay.
And I'm sure what interested me is AI combination with psychology, and that's why I'm here to explore the field.
Great. Okay.
Not yet known how I'm going to utilize it, but definitely to help students, parents.
Okay. Anybody, whoever's left.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Burhanuddin.
Oh, too many people talking.
Okay, Sakshi, go for.
Shayad,
Hello.
you can go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Burhanuddin Shayar and I am a writer and I did my undergraduation from Pune Phule University, Siagar College, Pune. And right now I am having a vision and mission of making a huge change in one's life. So basically I wanted to be a career counselor. So it's very important to know the psychology behind the thought, mind, everything, their actions, everything. So I am working on it.
Okay. All right. Sakshi, would you like to go?
Is my net unstable? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I mean, I think everyone can hear you.
Okay. So, hi, my name is Sakshi, and I completed my bachelor's in arts in psychology. And the reason I chose psychology was never the plan actually. But then, as in when I took arts, I found a deep interest in the subject, and it keeps amusing me every single day. And so, and when I kept doing on internships, I became more sure of what it is that I want to do. This is something that I've not shared with anyone, but I think it is probably the right time or whatever. So, okay, yeah, I like photography. This is what everybody know. So there's this course in Milan in Italy, which is a niche food photography psychology. So it's a food psychology course. So it's not something that I want. I mean, I definitely want to do something in psychology specific, but other than that, I also want to do that course. So as of now, I'm not sure what, but till now, I thought child psychology for me is the right way to go. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, can I go? So, ma'am, I'm a graduate in psychology as well, but I graduated in 1998. So it's been a long break. So for me, it worked reversed. I decided I saw a lot of kids who need mental health help and they don't get it. And how some kids, like my kids in school, their brains are handled so delicately that I really feel I could do something for the people who don't get that help. So for me, I decided what I want, and being a graduate is just a bonus. So I go back to study now because I mean, I know what I need to do.
Awesome.
I help the kids. Yeah. So it's going backwards.
That's great. That's not going backwards. That's going forwards.
Forward, yes.
Okay. Who else? Anybody's left? Or we've covered everybody? Done? Irfana's left. Irfana.
Actually, ma'am, I didn't go to college. I dropped out in between. So I'm not a student here. I'm like coordinating.
No, I actually know you're not a student here. Aditi actually told me. I'm aware.
Yeah. So I was studying computer science, but halfway through I felt it's not my thing. And I, in fact, tried an internship in computer science, and I felt like there's a huge gap between what they're teaching me and the market out there. And then I was thinking, okay, I'll have to do my bachelor's and master's, and my starting salary will be 15,000. I'm not happy with any of this. So I took the different route. I believed more in experience. And right now I want to become an entrepreneur, and that is where I'm heading into. I'm also very interested.
Awesome.
Yeah, in psychology, but again, not to become a psychologist, just for learning purpose. It really helps in business to know.
Of course, it does. Ask me, I've been an entrepreneur for like a while now, and I'm like, everybody needs to learn business. There is business in everything. Whether you want to deal with children, whether you want to deal with AI, you need to do a business model. So, commerce people out here, thumbs up to you guys.
I don't know.
You all have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah. And even in sales, like psychology is one of the first thing that you have to be aware of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Okay. So, essentially, I'm going to give you a brief on the different things that exist out there. If there's something of your interest, we can definitely sort of deep dive. Okay. I also want to do this slightly differently with you all, because I've actually done, I've done a lot of these where, we tend to inform people about what is out there. Sure. but it's not like the internet doesn't give you this information. Okay. And I will give you all certain vital pieces of information that essentially have helped me also over the years. Okay. A bit about me before I sort of deep dive into our session is that I started off with my BA. I did my full psychology BA, and then I stopped studying for like about a year. But when I stopped studying, I also did other things. I was like, I need to continue being in love with psychology. I know I love psychology, but if I need to continue this affair, I need a break. So I took a break and I did my diploma in forensic science from Xavier's, which led me to forensic psychology. I didn't even know forensic psychology existed, right? Because back in my time, we did not have these platforms of, okay, meet people, ask them what's there, etc., etc. Essentially, we found out on our own. So I stumbled upon forensic psychology. I also did my clinical psychology. Okay. And to explain why I did that, essentially, forensic psychology is complemented with clinical psychology. And I had the personality for it. Okay. Now, this is something people are not going to tell you. We have a lot of interest in a lot of things, but do you fit the bill? Today, I might want to work with victims. I might want to work with prisoners. Okay. But do you fit the bill? It's one thing to see it on Netflix. It's another thing to actually sit in front of somebody and be able to conduct yourself in a particular way. So before anything, I want you all to identify who you all are. This is very, very important. Nobody tells you this. Nobody will tell you this. Okay. Everybody gets into the field of psychology with, this will and this want to help and to change. Sure. Full respect. Okay. But understand where your aptitude lies. We might want to help, but do we have the resilience? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are the things that create threats for us and opportunities for us? This is very, very important. It is almost key. Okay. As a person, I know today that I'm very ADHD. I cannot be in one institution doing one thing all the time. Okay. Which is why I became my own boss, which is why I also do a gamut of things. Today, if you ask me, what does your day look like? Every day of mine looks very, very different. Okay. You need to understand who you are before you step into psychology. That is very important. Okay. I will share a link or two with y'all at the end of the session. It'll be very productive for you guys to do. So it's like an introspection thing. It's an amazing test by Ray Dalio. If y'all don't know him, please read up on him. He's a bit of a billionaire. Okay. And essentially now that he's sort of reached his fame and things like that, he is sharing his secret formula with the world. And the secret formula is that what are your strengths and how can you build on them? When he functions as somebody who's really high up in the field, how does he function? He puts people who are strong in every team. Every employee of his has a certain baseball card. Are you all familiar with the concept of baseball cards? They give you they give you the picture of the person and they give you the vitals of the person. So they will tell you what are your strengths. They'll tell you what are your weaknesses. They'll tell you what is your opportunity and threats. And accordingly, he's able to build his companies on those things, which has brought him to where he is now. Going back to why I'm saying what I'm saying, know who you are before you step in. We might have a certain interest. It might not fit us necessarily. Okay. It's a bit of a journey. I got lucky to figure myself out very, very early in my career. I have about a decade of experience now, and I can tell you that I'm a semi-structured person. I see people, I teach, I do research, I do a gamut of things. Okay. So that is something which is very important to your journey. All right. Going back to, the stuff that exists out there. It's not that you all don't already know, but I'll start with, the interests that have come up while you all were speaking. Sakshi, I really, really like that you are so offbeat and different. And I really wish you go ahead and pursue it, because psychology now has gone into realms we could not even expect. It's gone beyond the clinical, it's gone beyond the counseling, it's gone into gastronomy, it's gone into restaurants, it's gone into fashion, it's gone into media. So honestly, sky's the limit. Okay. Let's start with what's out there. A lot of you all expressed very keen and interest in counseling psychology. Being able to bring people from point A to point B is essentially what you are going to do. Okay. Counseling psychologists, mostly in the West. Okay. I'll give you a East-West comparison of what people do and what people don't do. So essentially, if I had to compare it to the West, counseling psychologists focus on psychotherapy. They focus on counseling. Okay. They help people get from point A to point B. They don't always do, the work of a clinician, which is diagnosis. A counseling psychologist essentially comes sometimes after a clinical psychologist, but this is in the West. In the East, which is basically in India, we have a lot of flexibility. Okay. There are lots of gray spaces that people can enter. We have clinical people doing counseling work. We have counseling people doing a lot of testing as well. So pros and cons. So in counseling psychology, you will work on certain points of concern with people. Okay. You need to decide what age range you want to work with. Everybody doesn't get along with children. Everybody doesn't get along with adults. Everybody doesn't get along with geriatrics. So pick your spot. It is very important. Okay. If you want to be somebody like me, I'm very jack of all trades. If you ask me, who is it that you do therapy with? I've done therapy with like as young as 9 years, right up to 90 years. Okay. And it's not always therapy, it's management, it's support. Okay. So there are lots of layers to a counseling psychologist. Okay. Anyone wants to know anything more about a counseling psychologist as of now?
So for me, if I want to help these kids, which is a simple focus I have, I want to help kids who don't get help. So is counseling psychology the answer for me?
Where do you want to help these kids?
I'm in Hong Kong, ma'am. I live in Hong Kong. And there is a very small audience because most of them are Chinese speaking. So I can only
No, so help me understand where, in the sense that what is the setting? Is it orphanages? Is it a school?
So right now, ma'am, I go volunteer and I basically just play with them, help them, when I do that a lot. So these are orphanages or low income groups of Indian, Nepalese, or basically who understand Hindi. Because otherwise it's all Chinese speaking here. So what would it be? Would it be
so you also understand, because you all are such a diverse group, okay? You all need to find out the rules and regulations of where you are. Today, psychology, okay, in India is practiced very differently, north, south, east, west. Everybody, there are national rules and then there are state rules. Okay. So in the north, you have to have an MPhil. In the south, you have to have an MPhil if you're a clinical psychologist. But in the West, they make us exemptions because we don't have as many psychologists. So they're like, it's okay if you've done a full-time MA, for example. So similarly for you, Devika, you will need to find out in Hong Kong, what are the rules and regulations. Okay. Ideally, yes, I would actually tell you that if these kids are not special, okay, if they don't have special needs, for example, autism, right? If they are regular children with regular health, then counseling psychology will be a good fit for you.
Okay. So I need to find out the local protocol.
Yes, you will have to find out the local protocol, because there is, in the sense that rules and regulations are still, in the making in India. We're talking about licensing, etc., etc. So one is that you will have to figure out what does Hong Kong expect from you. Okay. And this goes for everybody, no matter where you all are, right? Whether you're in India or whether you are abroad. Okay, please find out what are the rules and regulations that go into your licensing, into your accreditation, and things like that. Okay, it's very, very important. Okay, rules are becoming even more stricter and stricter. All right, for mental health professionals. So for me, Devika, I think like the setting that you are describing, a counseling psychology, direction would be very, very good for you. Okay. Does anyone have any other question about counseling psychology?
Ma'am, like if I choose to do counseling, so I would be preferring to work with the people of my age group, like from 18 to 22 something, because
sounds good.
There is a existential crisis of identity. Like,
right.
Really don't know what we want to pursue or what we are really. Are we about what our parents are thinking us to make, or these kind of things really hamper the overall growth of the person.
Right. Right. So again, counseling psychology, I mean, if you're talking about, if you want to work with essentially existential crisis, okay, now we're looking at what we would identify as a normal population. Okay. I would also say that a clinical psychology degree tends to give us a bit of an edge, at least here in India, the way things are taught, the way things are. Okay. I'm a fan of learning more, even if I have to do lesser. Okay. So today my clinical degree gives me an edge. I also work with, Naveen, your age range with existential crisis and things like that. Okay. But my clinical degree has sort of given me more knowledge. So I'm a better psychologist today. And I've made it a point. So, your training doesn't end here. I mean, it is with all of you all, no matter which field you go into. Understand, once you get your master's degree, please don't stop there. If you all decide to be counseling psychologists, okay, whether it's Devika, whether it's Naveen, you will have to grow in different fields. Okay, you will have to choose what psychotherapies you want to do, and you will have to make the additional investment in training.
So PhD is a must, man. You're saying that.
Right. So it depends. Now, if you're going to do your PhD, where are you from?
I'm from Haryana.
Haryana. Okay. So see, a PhD essentially means you want to be in academics. Okay. Now, if you want to do field work, you need to focus on doing your Psych D, PSY.D. Okay. That trains you to be on field. PhD, yes. These are basic distinctions that everybody needs to know. If you want to be on field, if you want to work on field, you need to go into a course which gives you a Psych D after your graduation. Okay. A PhD, we all want PhDs. We all want Dr. So-and-so behind our names. Bahut acha lagta hai. But the thing is that mostly PhDs, especially in the West, if you want to be an academic, if you want to be in research, a PhD is a very good idea. Okay. If you want to do field work, try and focus on getting a Psych D. A Psych D. Okay. It is the same amount of work as a PhD, but you will focus a lot on getting onto the field and doing that kind of research versus a more academic research. Okay. Any other questions about counseling psychology? It is an absolute must, whether you all become an industrial psychologist, whether you all become counseling, whether you become clinical, it is a must for two things. Okay. Identify the therapies that you want to learn. What schools do you belong to? So as a therapist today, I belong to the school. I mean, after years, I identified that I belong to the school of Gestalt psychology, transactional analysis. Okay. I've even done things that are, I feel like, are sort of beyond me, but it's good to learn. So I have a level 1 certification in play therapy. This allows me to work with children. Okay. I am familiar with expressive art therapy. And by nature, I'm a Rogerian. I'm a person-centered person. Okay. See where you fit. See where you fit. It's very important. Yeah, Nami?
How do you find these? How did you find these? Like, yeah, you are good at this. So it was by experience?
Oh, it's a lot of exploration. It's a lot of trial and error. You know, you will read things, etc., etc. So whenever I would read, like, you know, certain schools of thought, like, you know, when I would read like behavioral school of thought, which is, you know, your CBT and your REBT, etc., etc., it wouldn't move me as much as a person. Okay, it wouldn't move me as much as a person. But when I read humanistic school of thought, okay, it's a very wholesome thing. It doesn't only look at a thinking spectrum, but it also looks at a feeling spectrum. And I believe as a person, you need to look at people as a whole. You can't only look at their behavior and their thinking. You also have to focus on their emotions. Right? So that is very important. Find what you are curious about. Find what you are curious about. Today, as a clinician, if you tell me, like, you know, expressive art therapy can really help schizophrenia, I'm going to put a big question mark over there. Because it can't cure schizophrenia, it can help schizophrenia. So it's a benefit to me. So today, when I sit and interact with people who have schizophrenia, for example, I know what to use with them. Today, when I interact with geriatric people, I know what I can do with expressive art therapy. As professionals, be familiar with at least 3 to 5 things, 3 to 5 areas of specialization. Okay. Even tomorrow, if you decide you want to get into AI, because I think 2, 3 of y'all said AI. Okay. AI is the future. AI is the future, but you are the brains behind that future. Now, you need to understand people before you understand a machine. So what is it that you want to create? Right? So understand, you will have to go through, okay, let me invest in a small course of CBT. Let me invest in a small course of REBT. Let me invest in a small course of, let's say, Gestalt psychology. You will have to explore beyond your ME to find out what you are good at. And that is very, very essential. Today, what is it that makes a good therapist, for example, or a good psychologist different from, let's say, a mediocre one? One is investing more in continuously upping their skill set. Okay. This is very, very important to you as a professional. So don't think your master's is the end. Okay. Number one. Anybody has any other questions?
Ma'am, excuse me.
Yeah, Kiran.
Ma'am, it is just like, when you said the areas you are expert, like you took expertise in, you talked about transactional analysis, right?
Yes.
Could you like give me an idea about transactional analysis?
Sure. So in transactional analysis, it was created by Eric Berne. Okay. And so you have 3 schools. You have Gestalt, you have TA, which is your transactional analysis, and you have your TA with Gestalt. Okay. Now, TA is at a very thinking level. Gestalt is at a very feeling level, and TA with Gestalt is the most potent combination I've ever learned in my life. And it talks about how we have inner dialogues and how we have certain schemas and how we function within ourselves and also with the environment. It's not just a static thing where we're looking inwards continuously, but we're looking outwards also as to what have we taken from the environment and what are we giving back also to the environment. So there's a lot of reading material out there. You know, the Bible of TA is, it's called, I think I can put it down here. It's called TA Today. If you all want to make the investment, it's an amazing book. You can read it and you can find out more about it. So what happens with TA and Gestalt is that not only am I able to understand someone's communication, okay, and decipher what the problem is. But at a feeling level, now that is a gestalt that comes in, okay, I'm able to handle their emotions. So for example, today, we tend to live in families, we tend to have fights, we tend to have discords with people, by just family, with friends, or whatever it is, right? It will help me understand where this is coming from. Why am I communicating in a particular manner? How do I change this particular communication? Okay, and what makes me feel the way I'm feeling? So that is your TA with your gestalt. Nishita?
I can recommend we can recommend the book Games People Play for transactions.
Yeah, you have games people play, you have what do you say after you say hello. These are very, very good books related to TA today. Okay, I can send a list across to Aditi, who can pass it on to you guys, or I'll just make a list after I'm essentially done with you. So if you're doing clinical, if you're doing counseling, yeah, can you go ahead?
I'm sorry. Just a small follow-up question. Like, would you suggest like to take small courses? Like there are 3-day courses and all, which I'm aware of, for transaction analysis. Would you suggest taking such courses, or would you suggest, or would you prefer us to read the book?
You can always start with the book. Okay. There are courses, go ahead, do them. You know, before you deep dive into a 3-year course, no, you need to understand whether you belong to that school. Sorry?
Yeah, it's a 3-day course, ma'am.
Okay, so in 3 days, you're not learning any sort of TA gestalt. You will basically get surface wala learning. Okay. So that essentially might give you an idea. It will give you an idea. Okay. It may not even convince you, but if you are asking me, then do I do a 3-day course or do I do TA today? Then I'll say start with TA today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Irfan?
Yes, ma'am, I want to ask something about how to deal with the schizophrenia patient nowadays.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The schizophrenia patients.
Yeah.
Deal with them.
How do you deal with them? It depends on what schizophrenia they have. It depends on that. And obviously, this requires the intervention of a psychiatrist. You cannot do much without medication at all. At all. It's a very broad question, probably for another day. But yeah, you will have to do medication and therapy. But this is depending again on what skills. Today, paranoid schizophrenics are very, very functional. They are able to hold jobs. They're able to, you know, do things. I've met paranoid skills people who actually have passed in their MSc in chemistry. They've written books. They're extremely, extremely functional, as opposed to your catatonic skills, where the prognosis of getting better is very, very low, very low. So it depends on what you have. Okay. Going back, so you have the work of a counseling psychologist. In clinical psychology, essentially, you do a lot of diagnosing. We do a lot of testing. Okay. You use the tools that have been created by lots and lots of psychologists in the yesteryears and even now. You can work in a hospital, you can work in a private setting, you can work, you know, anywhere that essentially you are required. Clinical psychologist can be even in industrial psychology. Okay. When someone, you know, is going through, let's say, depression, anxiety, clinical psychologist. Okay. And also out here, at least in India, clinical psychologists also do therapy. Okay. Unlike the West, where a lot of clinical psychologists, they sort of stop just at testing and diagnosis. Okay. This goes over and above, and we also get to do a lot of therapeutic work, which is a great thing. So clinical psychologists also can work in a prison setting, can work in a rehabilitative setting, can essentially work wherever. literally wherever. And we deal with a lot of pathology. Okay. And our expertise lies in a diagnostic work. All right. Questions? Any questions about clinical psychology? No? Move forward. Give me indicator. Thank you. Okay. You have your forensic psychologist. Now, forensic psychology is not as booming as, let's say, counseling psychology or clinical psychology. It is rather neo-nascent in India. Okay. It is, people are pretty familiar with it in the West. Okay. It is the amalgamation of psychology and the law, the judicial system. Okay. So we work with prisoners, criminals, we work with victims. Let's not forget victims. We also work with the judicial system, which has your police, it has your lawyers, it has your judges. We work in all sorts of different capacities in these legal settings.
Ma'am, there isn't a difference between criminology and forensics. Much difference.
So criminology, criminal psychology is very specific to the criminal population, as opposed to forensic, which is a bit of an umbrella. Like even when I did it, I was like, okay, should I focus on just criminal psychology or should I do forensics? Now, when I've done forensics, I'm able to deal with not just criminals, but I'm able to look at rehabilitation of victims. I'm able to look at the police. I'm able to look at legal matters. I'm able to look at lawyers. I'm able to, work with judges. So it's a bit of a spectrum when we do forensic psychology, as opposed to just criminal psychology.
Criminology just focuses on the criminals.
Yeah, essentially more of the focus. It's not that you don't learn about the rest, but most of the focus is based on that specific population.
It could be said that criminology is a part of forensics.
Yes. I mean, also criminology is more society based. But if you say criminal psychology, it's more internally based. It's based on the psychology. So that's another difference as well. Okay. Any doubts? Anyone wants to ask anything?
Can I ask something related to child psych?
Yeah. Go ahead. Ask.
Okay, so if let's say I do a course from Australia, I had looked at one course later after this program. Sure. So if I do child psychology from there and then practice there for, let's say, 2 to 3 years, but my final destination, I mean, I feel that I fit right here in India. I'd like to practice here. So would my education and culture impact? I mean,
I'll answer your question with the help of my experience. So I did a 1-year UK Masters, and a 1-year UK Masters is, in countries like America, India, where a Masters is a 2 years course, your UK 1 year will be frowned upon. Yes, it's from the UK, great. It's from the best institution, great. But like I said, everybody has their own rules and regulations. So maybe you might have to, by the time you come back, if there's some bridge exam, bridge course, some sort of licensing exam that you might have to give, there's nothing really that exists right now per se if you do child psychology. Okay, child psychology. I'm not saying clinical. I'm saying child psychology. You don't really have to give no bridge exam or bridge course. Also, if you make up in the years of your professional experience, that's also a great thing. That's also like a bit of a bridge. So you might not have to give an exam of sorts.
Okay, so yeah, as of now, though, that is the situation. But I have another question for you.
Sure.
Is child psych going to pay my bills well? Like not just pay my bills, but maintain a certain standard of living?
It depends on where you work. See, today I have a list of, psychologies out here. Okay, I have industrial, I have neurology, I have clinical, forensics, sports, for psychology and media, psychology and fashion, career psychologists. It entirely depends on where you decide that you want to work. Okay. So for example, today, certain school psychologists, okay, or child psychologists are making way more money than clinical psychologists. Okay. Because they're working in very different settings. Today, a IB school is able to pay you much better sometimes than a hospital. Okay. So it entirely depends on you. Also, you all will have to wait a bit, in the sense that I've realized the money comes in, the name comes in true to form for any field. Okay, this is not just psychology, but this is for any field. You have to work at least 5 to 10 years in the field to make a name, to make connections. Guys, this is the formula for things. Please network. Please network. If you think you're going to grow in a static environment just by sitting in your office and working, it will never work. It will never work. You all belong to societies. Get out there. Make sure that people know you. Make sure that you all network with people. Today, if you want to be a child psychologist or a clinical or a counselor, get to know psychiatrists. Okay. At least in India, what happens is that sometimes the first thing that happens is that a parent will take a child to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist doesn't do therapy. You have to eventually, then the psychiatrist will give you a name or give you a referral. Okay, so please network. Please network. It is very important. Okay, when we did not have the pandemic, we used to have a lot of these networking seminars and a lot of these educational platforms that physically, because it's so important for the community to sort of come together, see what everybody is doing, network, get in on each other's projects, things like that. This is very important for your growth. Okay, it is very, very important for your growth. Things like this, you're not going to get off the internet. Only by talking to people, you're going to understand that what is really, really important for your careers. Okay, things like getting to know yourself is very important. Okay, that is one. Okay, if you feel like you don't have resilience, you can't work in a hospital. Okay, think about where do you want to work and in what capacity. What is your strength today? Are you good with children or are you good with adults? Where does your rapport lie? If you build on what is your strength, it will be much easier than taking something that, okay, I want to do this. I absolutely want to do this. I will not discourage anyone, but the road will just be harder. Naveen, you have something to say?
No, I was asking that it is required a personal touch for the counseling and this kind of purpose. So you are saying that online really gets off the edge of these kind of things?
So the thing is that, okay, I'm very old school. I'm very like, counseling online nahi hota hai. Okay, but because of the pandemic, we've all had to change. And counseling is very successful online.
The mental stress on the people, ma'am. Like,
sorry?
Really, stress on the people, a pandemic has quite really.
Yeah. So we have a lot of work, and the only way we can help people now is online. It is online, and it is very, very successful. It is very successful. And why is it successful? Is because I'm able to know what I'm good at and what can I do and what I can't do. If it is beyond my realm, I will give a referral to somebody else who's better than me. And there is nothing wrong with that. If you feel that something is beyond your capacity, understand that you're dealing with a human life, and it would be wise for you to give it to somebody who is an expert, who knows how to deal with these things. Okay, don't feel like, no, I will do it. Nobody is, here for experimental purposes. Don't do that to human beings. Okay, you wouldn't like that to be done to you. So please give referrals. Okay, there is enough work for the whole world. All right, so don't feel like you're missing out. Okay, so We're done with forensics. So there's another one that's really coming up very well. And again, it's neo-nascent, but it's coming up. So you have your sports psychology. You're dealing with athletes, you're dealing with sports organizations, you're dealing with team building, you're dealing with the individual and how you can bring them to their peak performance. Okay. You're looking at them mind and body, and you're bringing them to a certain balance. Okay. So as a company, we have actually worked with Maricom Boxing Academy. And what we did was we did a lot of team building, we did a lot of skill building, we did a lot of internal work with the kids who are learning how to box. Okay, they come from a place where things are far out and few. All right. So this is very important for them. When they go to national level, international level, they deal with a certain level of stress. How do they do this? How can they do this? That's when we come in. That's when the mental health experts come in to teach them how to stay in their zone, how to be focused, how to deal with, sports bullying. You'll see the media today. They will thrash anybody that they can find. Whether you're an actor, whether you're a sports person, whether you're a celebrity of sorts, right? And we don't realize what the other person's feeling. So to take them through that, it's important that mental health practitioners intervene. Okay. Questions about sports psychology? Anybody has any interest or questions?
Ma'am, the sports itself is a difficult area in India.
Yes, it is. It is a very, very difficult area in India. I'm aware. I have a few friends who are very good at what they do, and it's very difficult for them to excel because of the lack of support.
The sports psychology is like really difficult to be difficult.
It is like I said, it's very niche. It's very niche. Already psychology has a lot of heat, it has a lot of stigma. To top it all, if now sports people and now actors, actresses, now they're coming forth and now they're taking help, because they realize that they need to function. And where do you function from? You don't just function physically, you function more from here than anything.
Like ma'am, you told that you have worked with Maricom Academy. So by the time, like most of the time, the people doesn't have enough equipment on them.
They don't have enough equipment. They don't even have shoes to wear. Yeah. They don't even know how to hold a spoon and a fork.
Yes.
So when they go international, sometimes they are bullied or they are made fun of because people are like that. So how do you help them power through that? And sports by itself is so different, right?
Yes.
Your personality gets molded very, very differently.
You have to box from 1,000 people and you got beaten.
Right.
Yourself.
Anybody else? Irfan.
Yes, ma'am. In 2011, when India won the World Cup, there is a psychologist was there, Paddy Akhtar is there. He always motivates the players in 2011. Paddy Akhtar. So nowadays, many sports have a psychologist in a team management. They are carrying them with. In this pandemic also, they are carrying with the management so that they don't get the fatigue of this situation. So it is very interesting. For me,
it is, and it is very helpful. It is very helpful. We don't realize when, when we're in a cricket stadium, for example, and, we are booing somebody or we are cheering somebody, we are responsible for what we are doing. But do we realize what's happening on the other side? We don't take responsibility for that. We don't take responsibility for somebody else's mental health. It's very easy to boo somebody or say something, that's, very detrimental to their mental health.
Like making fun of any player, like getting in a doubt.
Yeah. Or even threatening, when cricket players don't do well, they get a lot of threats for not themselves, but their families as well. So they require attention. They require a lot of attention. There's a lot of pressure on them.
Sachin has during his playing days, Sachin did not read the newspapers because it always demotivated him. There are many written in the newspaper about how he's playing, about his game, everything is. So as a sport, as a field is a very interesting, and we can do anything in this.
We can. And it's good if we realize that there's a huge advantage when you have a mental health practitioner on the team as well. You know, beyond the physiotherapy and beyond the training, there needs to be somebody there who's also able to help you here. Because if this is sorted, a lot of other things just sort of fall into place. This is like a domino effect.
To be in sports psychology, don't we need to have an idea about the game we are going to be dealing with at the sports?
You will have to have an idea of the game, not essentially be a sports person, but have a certain aptitude towards the game. For sure. Okay. So we're done with sports, we're done with counseling, forensics, clinical, school. School essentially, you're talking about not just taking care of, the children that are coming to school. You're also going to be responsible for the non-teaching staff, for the teaching staff, and the parents. Remember that. When you deep dive into school psychology, there is a bunch of things over there. Okay. You'll be entrusted with workshops. You'll be entrusted with one-on-ones. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in a school setting. Okay. Essentially, you're working with the ecosystem of the school. All right. Anybody has any questions? Okay. All right. Moving along. Are we familiar with neuropsychology? Is anybody interested in neuropsychology?
That's really about MBBS now, like it's for a doctor or something.
No, it's actually not the truth. As clinicians also, we work with a lot of neuropsychological tests. So that is very important. It is extremely brain-based. It is extremely brain-based and chemically based. Okay. So yes, your aptitude needs to be a little higher on the science part of things. Okay. But it's not that arts people cannot do it or a psychology graduate cannot do it. If you have an interest towards it, you will work with, neurosurgeons, you will work with neurologists, and you help them find out, just the way somebody is put into a CT scan or is put into an MRI, you also can find out what is happening in their brain at what level with the help of psychological tests. So that's the work of a neuropsychologist. Again, you can work privately, you can work in hospitals, you can work in any space that basically care gives.
PhD and research is the most driving region for neuropsychology.
Yeah, research. So the thing is that research is the way forward. I will tell you today, whether we have spoken about clinical psychology, counseling, school, there is research everywhere. There is research everywhere. You can get into any field of research today, any field. Like generally, yes, we associate neuropsychology with a lot of research because we read things like that. But neuropsychology is beyond that as well. Today, people are education psychologists or school psychologists, but they are in the field of research. They can be forensic psychologists, but you're in the field of research. So that is very academic. That goes back to you doing your PhD.
But neuro research is more into a lab. Will be into a lab.
Yeah, of course. Of course. It depends on the topic that you are researching as well. Okay. Then one of the things that is pretty booming and that I think Sakshi sort of asked, what will really, really pay your bills essentially is if you work in industrial psychology. You have lots of MNCs recruiting people to take care of the workforce mental health at different stratas, at different levels. You're looking at people one-on-one. You're looking at the organization as a whole. How are you meeting the organizational needs and the needs of the people? What is that middle ground? Essentially, mental health practitioners who work in industrial psychology are given that kind of work. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work because you're looking at right from micro to macro. Okay. And the ecosystem that you're working in will be more official, business oriented, not necessarily hospital based, but more like office based. Okay. So you can expect that kind of a work environment.
And
Questions?
also in industrial psychology, like we'll think that the big companies, they're doing great, but they have a lot of issues internally with them.
Everybody has a lot of, let me tell you today, whether it's academics, whether it's sales, whether it's MNCs, where there are people, there's politics. Okay, understand that. That is a given. That is a given. So it's not essentially easy. Yeah, and that world is very different. It's more probably number crunching and practical. Again, it depends on where you are going and what you're working with, right? So it has its own needs. It has its own needs. A lot of industrial psychologists, you have clinical psychologists who also become industrial psychologists in the sense that they join HR. And when you join HR, essentially you're looking at recruiting people. You're looking at a SWOT analysis again. You're trying to see whether the right people are coming in. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Will they fit into the environment? Okay. So you will do a lot of psychometric testing over there. You will do a lot of interviews over there. That's the kind of work. You also do a lot of training. You do a lot of training, you do a lot of workshops. So today, for example, if you have to talk about communication skills, soft skills, inclusivity, all right, that responsibility falls onto you.
I have a question regarding neuropsychologists. So
sure, go ahead.
If I'm not a part of research, what kind of job will I have as a neuropsychologist?
Yeah, you can work in rehabilitation centers. Okay. You can also work with neurologists. You can work with neurosurgeons as well. Basically, you have hospitals that have neuro rehab. Okay. You can work there. You can also work independently on your own as a practitioner, but then again, it's a lot of hard work because you need to network, you need to get to know people, etc. So that's the kind of work. Questions? I also believe that everybody should go above and beyond. Okay. When you're studying psychology, understand you are not just studying psychology. You are studying sociology, you're studying history, you're studying art, you're studying literature. Okay, understand where people are coming from. Why was certain art produced at a particular point in time? Okay, don't just get stuck in psychology. Go above and beyond. I always tell all my students this. When you're deciding your career path, okay, so essentially like how, Sakshi expressed, she said, I want to do something with food. There are so many restaurants out there where mental health practitioners are called and they are asked, so how can we make our restaurant better? What can we do better? How can we give people a better gastronomic experience? Okay. You have like very recently, I had the chance of working with a couple of people in the media. They want their script writers, their directors. So they essentially ask us, what do you think about this character? What do you think about the story flow? What do you think about, how can we make this better? Is this character in line? Okay. So it's very nice today on the sets of, things like Big Boss or, the reality shows that you have. You actually have full-time psychologists on the show. But understand that these are very like sporadic projects. Okay, they are not continuous. They come and go and they come and go and they come and go. Okay, so if you are somebody who requires to, let's say, put food on the table, you're a single breadwinner, okay, those kind of things I would not essentially recommend. Do them once in a while. They're very sporadic projects. They're very sporadic. That the world is very different. The media world is very different, right? Any other questions?
In this media world, hello, hello.
Yeah,
I can hear you. I can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, ma'am, we have 5 more minutes, so I think we can take it as the last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, in the media world, how to deal with the fake news? It is very prominent nowadays. These fake news are coming.
Sorry, what is coming?
The fake news is from the media houses.
Yeah, you have a lot of misinformation and disinformation. Essentially, when clients also come to us and, because we are all going through, what we understand as cabin fever. We're all hot box, we're all inside, we're all indoors, we're continuously on our phones. I believe a lot in digital hygiene. Okay, I know that I cannot tell people to stop scrolling on their phones, but what I can tell you is that instead of scrolling through 10 pages that say the same thing, okay, while they put, their own garnishing, their own mirch masala, etc. Instead of following 10 things, why not follow 2 things, 2 reliable things that have repute?
They are misinterpreting the whole scenario.
Yes. Yes. There is a lot of misinterpretation, but there's also
they are also making
what can we do from our end? What can we do from our end? We can, stop that consumption. If we are getting misinformation or disinformation from another space, right? We can filter those things out. Like I said, you don't have to follow 10 news channels. Follow 2 news channels that are potent, that are reliable.
They are making the people depressed with this news. So
yes, but it's also our responsibility whether we want to hear that or no. We can say yes, okay, media is doing this, yes, but we are also watching it.
We can also work with them also. With
we
the
can
media house.
definitely, we can definitely work with media houses, provided that they want to be worked with. What is the role you're going to play over there?
They are interested or have any thing they want to share with us, then also we can work with it.
Sure. And also understand that their world is very different and they have to put stuff out there. Essentially they're doing their job. So they might not even want to be corrected at times.
They're doing their profession.
Irfana, I think, sorry, we've gone a little overboard.
No worries.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time for us. We've had many more knowledge than about our career scope, about psychology scope, like about psychology, educational, clinical, forensics. A lot of, many branches to the psychology tree where we can hang to one of the branches and develop. Ma'am, can we have a group photo?
Sure. Absolutely.
Burhanuddin, are you there? Please come on camera. He's not there, I guess. Okay, fine.
That's okay.
I really want to thank you for such an informative session. Really, very, very helpful.
I'm glad. That was the point.
Absolutely. Very helpful, and you're super confident. Like, it makes us believe in you more.
Thank you.
Ourselves that we are doing the right thing.
Very excited.
Okay.
If any of you all have more questions or, you're most welcome to get in touch with me. I'll just drop my email ID here. And yeah.
Ma'am, I'll also be sharing your social media handles, everything to the students. So
please go ahead. Not a problem.
They will be getting in touch with you, and please
no
support
problem.
them in any way possible.
Definitely. My Instagram. Oh, sorry, Irfan, I think I directly messaged you, but sure.
I had given your Instagram handle to them actually to tag you.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you'll ever want to get in touch, just say that, ma'am, we met on the 3G meeting. Give me some reference. Okay, give me some reference.
Yes, ma'am.